police man.
That caught me off guard.
I could tell that caught you off guard, bro. Anyway, what's good, people? Welcome to another episode of The Rec. I am joined with the basketball man, then Abbas Younis, Rich London, Project Sam. I should introduce you individually. Let's do our little individual intros. Richard, what are you saying, bro?
I'm coming. Playoff season is here again. I mean, we get to go Friday to Sunday. Like basically, there's basketball every day, and I'm going to try and stay awake for most of them.
Good luck with that, homie. Also on the call with us, we have Abbas Younis, our self-proclaimed brown brainless. What are you saying, bro?
I'm good. Like with Rich, basketball season's on. So like this is where burner, and then we just talk till June. Then we go back to the main sport, which is the NFL. But for now, let me see these guys hoop out.
No one cares about handball.
We're not here to be about NBA and NFL. But last but not least, we have Project Sam joining with us. Sam, what are you saying, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Like the man them said, here to separate the ballers, the real hoopers from the chokers, innit? So let's get ready, man.
Listen, it's playoff season. As Sam said, we're here to separate the ballers from the chokers, even though there's some chokers in the playoff, but we won't get into that. Let's get on to... We'll quickly do the first seeds. The first seed versus the eighth seed. The eighth seed in the West is either going to be the Pelicans or the Clippers. I think we can all say individually 5 and 6, if that. I would even give the
5.
If the Clippers 6, maybe. If PG-13 wants to turn up, but if not, I think the Suns have been the best team in the NFL, in the NBA this season, without a doubt. C3PO has given the team another franchise. He's given another franchise their highest win record. I think he's done it with 4 franchises now, which is it's crazy. That
CP0.
Well, this is the thing. Let's quickly look at the Suns. Is it finals or bust for them? Considering they're in the finals last year and then they've gone on to have another good season.
Yes,
I say,
especially at this point of like Chris Paul's career, like you always say, like he's 37. Obviously, he's not further towards the end of his career because he did change diet and all that kind of stuff. But time is running out on him to win championship. Each time you waste, it gives another team an opportunity to catch up. And this is the Suns' best chance. Like they've literally got everything: rim protectors, defenders, shooters. You've got Devin Booker, and I think I saw statistically they were the clutchest team in the league this season. And if you're going to be the first seed, which you were the best team in the NBA by a mile as well, the expectation has now risen. It does have to be champion, not even finals and bust. I think it's championship or bust for these guys.
I think this is the thing, though. With CP3's legacy, I don't think it's going to hinder it that much because the Suns were like a bum franchise before he actually came. Like there wasn't nothing. I remember there was conversations like we need to get Booker out for him to be able to win. And then Chris Paul comes in, he leads them or helps them to a certain point where we're looking at them as the best team in the NBA. So, if anything, being at the Suns, even though if they don't end up with a championship, it's actually improved his legacy or just like maintained it to say, Chris Paul, he's not a choker. He can actually win games. He can lead teams to certain places where they're not being. Because I still remember the conversations, can Booker win by himself? Is it time to get Devin Booker out and stuff? Whereas now we're looking at the Suns because of Chris Paul coming in as well as other pieces, and we're saying it's actually a better chance that they can win the championship. So I don't think, depending on where they get into the playoffs, I don't think it can hinder Chris Paul's legacy that much.
Okay, I'll just say one thing to that quickly.
So,
no, I don't think the Suns would have been this good without Chris Paul, but I do think last season they would have had a winning season because I do think, I know everyone likes to joke about the bubble, but in the bubble they did go 8-0, and I think like they discovered something that they would have used to carry into next season. So yes, there's credit to Chris Paul because he helped the franchise reach a certain level, which I don't think they'll reach without him. But I don't want to give him all the credit for the Suns reaching this stage because I do think, especially with a coach like Monty Williams as well, who is now proven himself to show that he's a winning coach, I do think they would have reached a certain level of winning, whether Chris Paul got there or not. So.
But I do think Chris Paul does help in terms of leadership and taking them to that next level because as much as, they had that record in the bubble, without having a true leader, certain style of plays that they would have played without Chris Paul, I think there'll be games where they might or they should have won and they still wouldn't have won. But I think Chris Paul's brought that winning mentality, bringing some structure to the team, as well as having Monty Williams. So I think we have to give Chris Paul some credit, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's championship or bust, because similar to like what Abbas said, 2 years ago or even 3 years ago, we never would have thought this with the Suns. So I know they had a good season last year, but we can't just kind of fast track their progress and say, it's championship or bust. They've still got a young core. So I would say it's Western Conference Finals or bust, but I wouldn't say championship or bust yet.
I hear that. So considering all that, are we all saying what, Suns in 4, Suns in 5?
Suns in 5.
No, Suns in 6.
If the Suns play the Clippers, I'm gonna go out. I think it goes 7.
And there's a possibility that Kawhi could even say he wants to play in the playoffs as well. So we don't know as well.
If the Clippers come back with both Kawhi as well, if Kawhi factors there, I think the Clippers can actually beat the Suns. Like, this is the problem with the Clippers. They kind of messed up their own path into the playoffs by losing to the Timberwolves. If we had won that, we'd be sitting here saying they're playing the Grizzlies. And I actually would have picked them to beat the Grizzlies. But in this particular series, it's dependent on a couple of things. But I do think the Clippers can actually give them a better matchup in terms of taking the series a lot further than people actually give them credit for. But yeah, I do think I'll go deep. I'm going to give it as a 7-game series. I don't know why, because I just feel like the Suns are playing with pressure. The Clippers are playing with...
How healthy will Kawhi be if he comes back into the playoffs, into a playoff situation against the best team? Do you really think Kawhi can just step it up?
See, I don't think he can just step it up, but it's the way his game is constructed, where he doesn't need to be too explosive. He can literally he's one of the methodical players, right? So he can go ahead, get his points, and you'll blink, and he's already got 30 points, and he's scored really well. A bit like Durant in some ways, but maybe not as like eye-catching. So that's the only thing I'll look at Kawhi, and I think there's a possibility. Like, I wouldn't rule this out going a lot further, because similar to like what I believe about Memphis, which we talked about, I think the Suns are now playing with genuine pressure, where we look at them and say, you guys should actually go somewhere now.
Mm-hmm. All right, going on to Memphis. Memphis have the Timberwolves, Pat Bev and the Timberwolves against Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. Does anyone see the Timberwolves shocking the Grizzlies at all, or is it just going to be Ja Morant and co? And where do you see these Grizzlies teams? How far do you see them going in the playoffs?
So I don't think it'll be a shock, but I do think the series will be tougher than the standings showed, because to be fair, the Timberwolves do have quite a lot of good players. Not great, but good players. Anthony Edwards was a good player. Russell is a good player. He's had playoff experience and is a all-star. Karl Anthony Towns, he is somewhat of a good player. And then obviously you've got like decent role players on the team. And the Grizzlies are kind of young, so they haven't really, well, they won the playoffs last year, but they haven't been on this kind of stage before where they took this kind of leap. So they might be a bit nervous, but then I do see them winning the series in 6. And to your second question, if they do go through, they will probably meet Golden State, I believe, which Steph Curry would be back for that if Golden State go through. So I do think minimum for them has to be they do have to get past the first round.
But wouldn't that be a disappointing season, especially with the whole hype of how good the Grizzlies are, the second seed in the West, going out in the second round?
I think most of the hype was like, let me face it, most of the hype was because of how fun they was to watch. Like, you see all like the dances they're doing on the bench. I mean, they just have that feel good factor around the league. I don't think the hype was more to do like this is the team to be win the championship. I just think it's more to do with this a very entertaining young team who are overachieving by the standards that they were set. So if they do go in the second round, if it's to Golden State, then I don't think it would. But if Nuggets do find a way to go through and they don't beat the Nuggets, then I think that would be more disappointing.
I'm kind of like with Richard. The hype on the Grizzlies kind of comes more of some of the players rather than like a collective of how they play, because they are overachieving. But with overachievement, there is a bit of pressure comes down. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I want to see how Ja Morant deals with real pressure now, because you've done the regular season, you overachieved in there, but now there's an expectation for you to do something, and that's where the slippery thing can happen. And like, Minnesota can score. I think that's the one thing that people don't realize. Like around just, I guess, the focal point being Karl Anthony Towns, they can still score because in the actual playing game, he was in foul trouble. They go on a run where they beat the Clippers without him actually contributing as much. So they've got alternative weapons, and like we talked about Russell and how he's come along from his days at the Lakers. So he's actually come along as a good player. So it's not that simple. I'm interested to see Morant and how healthy he's also going to be because, again, like we've talked about, you talked about Kawhi coming back from injury. Morant just recently came back from injury. They've also been able to get wins without John Morant there. So it's not a case of, I guess that's one thing that's in Memphis' favor. It's not a case of John Morant and the core and the rest. It's a collective when they need to be. So that helps them. But I'm going to put it out there. Don't be shocked, again, if Minnesota go ahead and win this series because seedings in this particular one, for me, doesn't make it as close to what the actual series can be.
I don't really... Going to Tony's first question, in terms of the Grizzlies, I don't really buy into how everyone looks at the playoffs because at the end of the day, there's only going to be one team that's going to make it out of there. So similar to like Richard said, if they get out of the first round, that's an accomplishment for them because no one actually saw this rise coming from the Grizzlies. And if they do get to the second round, they're going to play Golden State. But then also Golden State have a certain type of cachet where it's for them is similar to it's championship or bust or Western Conference or bust, similar to the Suns. So there's only going to be so many teams that can make the final. So if they can get out of the first round, I think that's an accomplishment for them. And it's a stepping stone in the stage. Okay, they've gone in the right direction. In terms of what Abbas said about Ja in pressure, I don't think that's going to be a case because we saw what he did last year in the playing against Golden State. So he's built for these pressure moments. And in regards to the Timberwolves, I don't buy their hype or what people are saying because it's all good doing that in a one-off game. How are you going to do this over 7 games or when you have to win 4 games in a series? And I don't see them being consistent enough to even do that. So I'll probably give them 1 or 2 games, if that. But apart from that, I've seen, as much as I like Anthony Edwards, though I've seen him just jack up shots and be 4 for 20. Seen the same from Russ. So I still have Memphis going through comfortably, to be fair.
I think that's the thing, just on Sam's point with the Timberwolves, like, who's your main guy to score? Like, you can have one day where you have Anthony who just shoots. Then one day you look at the box score, Karl Anthony Towns is dominated. So there's not like, as much as we look at Towns and we're like, all right, you're the A guy. For scoring, it's sometimes, even though you've got a lot of scorers or can score, you want that predominantly main one focal point as well. And I feel like that's kind of in some ways what the Timberwolves lack because it's the case if you've got that you can shoot or you shoot. And sometimes it can get a bit too chaotic. But yeah, it's going to be a fun-ish series, I hope. But like I said, I'm not surprised. I mean, I am surprised if the Timberwolves win, but I'm not going to be shocked.
So we're saying what? Grizzlies in 5, Grizzlies in 6.
Yeah, I'll say 5 and 6.
I'll say 6. I'll say 6 because I'm sitting here giving Timberwolves a bit of credit. So I'm gonna go 6.
All right, Grizzlies in 6. We all agree with. Next in the West, Golden State versus the Denver Nuggets. This is a Denver Nuggets team without Jamal Murray, a Golden State team without Steph Curry though. Who would be? I feel like we're all going to say Golden State in this series, but who would be the main focal point? Do you think it's now time? Clay's been back for a bit now. He should be back into the rhythm of things. Is it now time for Clay to take over and show us why he is supposedly a 75 all-time player?
I don't think so, to be fair, because the way Clay plays, he's not ball dominant. So how is he really going to take over a game when majority of the time the ball's not in his hand? So I think in terms of if Golden State don't have Steph, this is where you're going to have to see what Draymond can do in terms of facilitating and running that offense. Because now you have Paul and Clay, and he could do pick and rolls. We've been seeing it when Steph's out, he's got the pick and roll partner with Jordan Poole. So I don't think we can put so much on Clay just in regards to he's not a ball dominant player, but I do expect to see him balling out. We've seen it in the last few games. Man's dropping 40, man's dropping 33. So I think in terms of Clay's going to do what he needs to do, but the focal point is going to be with, Draymond with the pick and roll, running the offense and getting other people points and getting other people into the game if Steph's not in there. But if Steph's there, I think it should be easy money in a sense for Golden State just to go through.
Easy money, word to KD.
See, this is the thing. Like, I know a lot has been put against Klay Thompson, but then at the same time, it's that thing that if you come back and you've had enough time now, we're looking at you as the second guy, so there is a bit more pressure on you to be like, Jordan Poole was doing his thing, so he's still doing his thing. But alongside that, now Klay Thompson is the main scoring guy, so I think there will be a bit more pressure on him to perform. I'm looking at guys like, what's his name? Kuminga. Yeah. I want to see a bit more production from you. Let's see what you can do in this particular role now, because everybody without Steph will have elevated time. So it's going to be that similar to like how the Memphis Grizzlies performed without John Morant. I kind of look at it similar here, but the only difference is you still have that main focal point with Klay Thompson. And again, he can get his shot without a dribble. He can do everything himself. So I'm not worried. I guess I'm not worried about him not scoring. At the same time, I'm a bit apprehensive to see. Let's see what the rest of the guys can do when, again, you're the favorite. Which I'm surprised that without Steph, this series seems to be, in terms of just betting wise, so far-fetched to be like, or the Golden State Warriors have this locked as well, because I thought it would have been a bit closer. With Steph 100%, it's not even a question. But without, I think it's a lot more closer now.
Does anyone see a way in which the Nuggets can win? Or is it just...
Yeah, because going off what Spring said, if Steph isn't there, I think the biggest story is Jokic, because it looks like he is going to win back-to-back MVP, and I won't say you can't go out the first round, but you're going against a team without Steph, you need to assert more dominance, because even when he wins back-to-back, there's a lot of people that will still say Jokic is in top 5 in the league and all that kind of stuff. So do you think it's time for him to, not that he hasn't, because he's been up the first round like all the time, past couple of years, but it's to continue to show that dominance, to be like, yes, I'm that guy and all that kind of stuff. With the Clay thing, obviously since his return, it hasn't really been the same Clay of old. So I do think everyone's expectations of him has dropped, and no one is going into the series thinking Jordan Poole carry us, or Kuminga carry us, or even Draymond carry us, because Draymond isn't a carrying player. He's a number 2, number 3, number 4 kind of guy. So I do think if there's no Steph, the series should be there for Jokic to go and win.
All right, so with that saying, Richard, what are you saying? Nuggets or Golden State?
With no Steph, I'll say Nuggets. But so I'll say Nuggets in like 7 with no Steph. With Steph, I do think it'll be like Golden State in like 5, maybe 6.
Nuggets in 7 with Steph, Golden State in 5. What about you, bro?
I'm kind of the same way, like literally pick for pick with Richard. I think the Nuggets can actually take this in 7. And on the flip side, if Steph comes back, then I think depending on where he comes back in terms of it, it'll go towards the Warriors. The thing I'll say is 100% game 1. Like, I know they say like game 1 of a series doesn't always win the series, but in this particular thing, I personally think whoever takes game 1 has a very strong chance of winning the series. Normally, like the tipping point is game 5 in a best of 7, but I think for some reason this and another series, game 1's going to be like such a big game to see how each team can perform.
Right. And Sam, last but not least.
With Steph, I say 5, and then without Steph, I would say Warriors in 6 or 7. To be fair.
Oh, all right. So bit of a mixed reviews there. Last but not least, in the West, we have the Utah Jazz versus the Dallas Mavericks. Apparently, Luka's going to be out for game 1. Can we see the Jazz winning this series now with the absence of Luka?
They have to. Like if there's no Luka, there's no reason they don't win. If anything, they should probably sweep the series if Luka isn't there. Just because not that the Mavs are a bad team, but the Mavericks do seem to put a lot through Luka, which it seems to be the whole system. So do they have a way that they play without Luka? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But with what I do know, the Jazz should sweep them if there's no Luka. The only thing I would say is, as is no like Jokic, Gobert and Donovan Mitchell do have their kind of problems. So I don't know how much that will affect their personal play or how much it will affect the team. But if there's no Luka, then it shouldn't go past 4 games.
You know what?
No Luka, Richardson sleep.
I can't lie. I'm with Richard. Like, in terms of the Dallas Mavericks,
Great minds.
Exactly. But why was Luka?
You're saying great minds and you're agreeing with Abbas. Are you sure?
Bro, I told you 2020 is a different year. We woke up with Sean Dash being sacked. You don't expect this. It's Good Friday, but there's nothing holy about that. But that's beside the point. What I'm saying is, with Dallas, I don't know why Luka Doncic was playing the final game anyway to start off with. Unless you could win that and change seedings or anything, I don't understand why he was playing. So, if anything, Dallas Mavericks have themselves to blame. With this, I'm with Richard in the sense of what the offense can only go through what Spencer Dinwiddie. No offense to him, but he's not an A guy. He's not the number one guy. So that's a big thing against them. Just like I mentioned about game 1 with Golden State. Game 1 here, if you drop game 1, you then play. It's 3 for 3, and you're playing on the road. As far as I think it could end in 5. Like I think it can get. Will end quite quickly, and Utah should win. Defensively, Utah, I think, are better. I kind of am on that position now where I trust Donovan Mitchell come playoff time. Like he's shown it before that he can actually put numbers, he can lead the team. So I kind of trust this Utah Jazz team to get the job done. It's kind of a shame because like I wanted Luka and I wanted the Dallas Mavericks to do something, but it's a big mistake to play Luka when he did play. Like I said, I don't know why, unless seedings could have changed fully. And because of that, now he's injured and missed game 1. I think he'll probably miss game 2. And if they're down 2-0, I don't personally think that he's going to even come back for the rest of the series.
All right, so what are we saying, Sam?
Similar to like what the guys have said as well. For example, if Doncic doesn't play or he's not in the series, as we know, the offense of Dallas is very Luka-centric, isn't it? So if he's not there, it's going to be easy money for the Jazz in it. And look, the Jazz are going to have the best player in the series if Doncic is not in the game. So I would say, yeah, probably Utah in 4 or 5. But obviously, if Doncic is there and if he comes in the second game, then it's probably going to be a long series, either Dallas in 6 or 7.
So Doncic, no party, basically. If not the Jazz, I want to quickly. I think the Jazz, bro. I think as it all depends on if Luka's there. I feel like even if Luka's there, he's not going to be 100% fit. Luka can take it to 7. If not, Jazz in 5 or 6. Just because I feel like Utah are not a bad team, and also Donovan Mitchell can, if he's about that, he can take over and beat this Mavs team quite easily, in my opinion. Like I do like people like Jalen Brunson and them, but they're just not ready yet. Do you know what I mean? Like it's playoff times, and as much as we don't like the Utah Jazz, it is what it is. It's only round 1. Going up to the East now, the first seed Miami Heat will either take on the Hawks or the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know we all expect the first seed to come out, but I might just say this: if it's the Hawks, I don't know, man. I can see Trae Young doing something. I can see Trae Young doing something, man. I can see Trae Young doing something. I don't think they'll win, but I can see Trae Young taking it to 7.
I think it's because, like, with Miami, they're not flashy. So it's like we look at Jimmy Butler, Bam, and we look at the team in general, and we think, okay, it's just a well orchestrated team. Like the coach has been there for so long. They've got depth. There's nothing exciting about them. Like if you were to say to people how, and then they watch the Miami Heat and then they drop a certain game, you look at them like, how you got the number 1 seed, but you can't beat. Sometimes they'll drop a game to Orlando or something silly like that. And you're like, how are you number 1? So I get what you mean because you don't have a dominant scorer. You've got like 4 at the same time. I just think with how the NBA is, with how playoff basketball is, Spolster and the guys, I just don't think, because being on the road, I think the Hawks or even the Cavs will mess up. And I just think the bench depth that the Miami Heat have can't, no other team that both teams they'll play, they can't stop that. Then on top of that, like rotations get tighter, but I think even with them, even if they tighten rotations, they're still going to be good. So I'm leaning on Miami. I think Miami can win either the Cavs or the Hawks in 5, really.
5. Sam, what about you, bro?
Mine's different to yours. I think if the Cavs win and they get Jared Allen back, I think they have a chance of beating Miami. Because the way the Cavs are going, they're just basically a big time play away from being a problem in the East. So yeah, I think with Jared Allen, I think they can actually cause some problems with Garland, Mobley, Allen. They got size and they've got other players on that squad that can help them out as well. So I to be honest, I think the Cavs are going to beat the Hawks and then come through as the 8, and then they've got a chance to beat Miami. But if there's no Jared Allen, then I would say probably maybe Miami in 6. But with Jared Allen, I could see it being a long series, and maybe the Cavs even going through.
Don't disrespect the best coach in basketball. Just don't dare. But everybody is, and it's cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Hawks are going through, and then Miami should win that series. I mean, obviously, I think what Abbas said is true, because even something happens to me that when I'm talking about like the.
I told you, bro. 2022 is bad. People agree with me.
No. What I'm saying is that because as Abbas said that Miami are flashy, that when you're talking about the good teams in the East, we just seem to just skip over Miami. That's just the way it is. So, but they are the first seed for a reason, and the Hawks are 8th seed for a reason. So, if that matchup does happen, even whether it's Cavs or Hawks, Miami should win that series.
All right, going on to the series that everyone's talking about, a rematch of last season's first round, if I remember correctly. Boston Celtics versus Brooklyn Nets. Listen, Jaylen Brown, Bruce Brown, Brown sauce. I don't care. Nets and fall, man. No, not Nets and fall. Being honest, I can see this going to either 6 or 7. Ben Simmons might come back for 4, 5, 6, or 7. Or no, he might be there for 5, 6, and 7, I think. So I think his first game will be game 5, let's say, and that will be at the Celtics. Really and truly, this is the thing in the Nets. We have probably the best player, we have the best player in that series. We have, let's say, the 3rd best player in that series. But then the Celtics have like the 2nd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. Do you know what I mean? Like, their role players are so much better than ours. So we just have to make sure that KD and Kyrie are on it for 4 games out of the 7, which is not hard. It's not a hard bet to do. And it's not like we don't have bad role players. Obviously, we have Aldridge. You have Bruce Brown. Dragic will probably be in the rotation of some sort. Seth Curry, Drummond. Like, we've got some people there. And with Simmons coming in. So we've got some people coming in. But it's just, I don't know what our rotation is going to be like come playoffs. And I don't trust our coaching in a sense. And, we got people like Patty Mills as well, but he's wishy-washy. Sometimes he can be 6 for 6, and we're like, oh, this guy's crazy. Sometimes he can be 0 for 6, and then I was like, yeah, it's Patty Mills. So, still, regardless, Nets in 7, if I'm being realistic. I would like to have Nets in 6, but let's have a bit of fun. Nets in 7.
I'm on the Nets. Like, I'm surprised kind of that the Nets going into the series are classed as like the underdogs betting-wise. I'm kind of with the Nets because they have, for me, the best 2 players. Like you said, the Celtics have the best team. The Nets have the best 2 players. The only thing I'd say is with Robert Williams out, that's going to cost them a lot. But on the flip side, then you got Marcus Smart, who would just defend any guard, and he can do that pretty well. This is the thing. If Ben Simmons comes back, you get better defensively. The Nets struggle defensively. So that adds value to you. It's just a case of whether, obviously, he can get up to speed. That's a game time thing in general. I'm going to look at the X Factor, and that's probably Seth Curry. I'm looking at you because, like, you can get hot. You can shoot. You've got the name Curry for a particular reason. Like, we all know you can do it. So it's a case of, let's say, if I believe Durant will always get his, and then he can defer to Kyrie if Kyrie is hot. My only thing is sometimes, can Kyrie being sometimes in a position where he can't get hot and Durant's still okay. He needs a number 2. And that's where I look at Seth Curry. I'm like, can you come ahead and do something? I know a lot of people have made the fact that some of the games that they'll play, Kyrie will be fasting, but I don't think...
What do you know about Ramadan Kyrie, blood?
Exactly, bro. There's faith. We all know faith beats anything. It beats water as well. So, but I do think that's like a bit overplayed because they're professional athletes, so they kind of know how to cater whatever they need and how they will go about doing it. So that's not going to be a problem. My only thing is, let's say if Durant's hot, Kyrie for some reason isn't. Is your 2.5 being Seth Curry for me at that time going to be able to produce against the team? If you can do that, I still believe like the Nets will go through. But I mean, I picked up for the championship, so I still stick by them.
Celtics in 6.
No, I'm just saying Nets in 6, man. I think they got best playing in the series. Then they got the best small player there as well. So I think even if Kyrie's having an off night, you still gotta factor him in. So in terms of what Abbas was saying, even if he's having an off night, you still factor it in. And what you need from Seth is to make them open shots. When he's open and you get the ball from KD, hit those threes. And if he does do that, then it'll be a nice night for the Nets because, you know, Seth can get hot whenever he needs to get hot. And you got the other role players. Like you see Bruce Brown, man's playing center at 6'8". And if he gets these little 15 points here and there, yeah, I think the Nets have got this, to be fair. I think the Nets have got this easily, to be fair.
The Celtics are like a lot better defensively as well. The coaching situation is better. And I don't really speak about coaching alone in the NBA, but when you can start pointing like to coaches, whether they're doing good or bad, then it speaks a lot. Like you've got some middle teams that you don't really speak about. Let's just say the Grizzlies. No one really speaks about Grizzlies coaching. They speak about players. Or if you speak about like a Nick Nurse, for example, that's because he's done really well. Or you speak about Steve Nash, it's because he's doing really unwell or really bad, should I say. So I do think that factors into the series as well. And is it going to have to be a thing that KD has to play 45 minutes a night for the Nets to have a chance? If that's the case, he's going to gas out by game 3 or 4, and he will also gas up towards the end of every game as well. So I do think the Celtics coaching situation is better. They play better defense, and they've got more momentum going into the playoffs as well. So I do think they can win this. It's not going to be easy, but I do think they can do it.
I hear you on Durant playing a lot of minutes, but I just think the way Durant is, even playing a lot of minutes shouldn't really tire him. Like, whereas you look at someone like James Harden, when he plays a lot of minutes, you actually see that as the series progresses. Like he'll start off strong, and then by 4 or game 5, especially if he's still, if the team, if it's 2-2 or 3-2, playing 40 minutes, you naturally see you see the decline of James Harden's game. I don't think personally with Kevin Durant that's gonna happen as much. And I still personally believe he can go and he'll get his 30 points, he'll be efficient. Whereas someone like James Harden, if he was the main guy and he's playing 40 week game in, game out, I'll see that production fall off.
And just one thing before we go on to another point, what Rich was saying about Celtics defense, I hear it, but also we got to realize they switch a lot. So when they're switching a lot, it becomes more of a one-on-one game, and that suits the Nets to a T because you got basically arguably the best 2 one-on-one players in the league. So them switching, it makes it easier. So I think Bruce Brown shouldn't open his mouth about you guys' tactics, but this is going to be a very interesting tie, to be fair.
I didn't actually see what he said, but I heard he was running his mouth or something.
Yeah, man, he was running his mouth, doing what? I don't care about Bruce Brown, man. After that post game interview, like talk about my near triple double. I was like, get out of here, man. On to the last 2 series of the East, Milwaukee versus Chicago. I'm gonna keep this real quick. Sweep. Everyone get your brooms. Sweep. Because boy, Chicago have been meaty since the All-Star break. I think the record is still like, bro. Things like,
and they don't beat
them playing like a lottery team.
They can't beat
And I know James isn't here, but no Lonzo, no party, bro. So I honestly sweep. Any objections for the sweep?
No.
Nah, bro. Yeah, them man are getting swept. I'm so sorry. Chicago fans and Chicago and the whole city of Chicago. At least they got the best shooting guard that Chicago's ever seen in the modern. But anyway, let's go on to the last series of the East: Philly versus Toronto.
James Harden.
Very
I'm
interesting.
watching.
This is James Harden watch, because I saw, like, especially for him playing with my team now. This is how important is this series or just this playoff run for James Harden? Because we've seen it time and time again of him gassing out in the playoffs. Not before. I feel like he's even gassed out now, and we haven't even got into round one yet, and he's just not performing. And now he's got a scoring champion Embiid. He's got a very good team in the 76ers. I still feel like they will win this series because it's the Raptors, and there's no disrespect to the Raptors. The Raptors are a good side, and I think they're coached well. But I feel like Philly just has a bit more star power in their lineup. But how important is this for Harden? What would be a good playoff series for Harden? Is it Eastern Conference Finals minimum?
I'm gonna keep
Finals.
it proper short and sweet. He's got the most pressure in the entire NBA in terms of the playoffs. There's no other player I'm looking at with more pressure than him. You go to Brooklyn, it messes up in Brooklyn. I had you back there. You come to Philly, and you kind of bit meaty on there.
Play
as
like
well.
ass.
Yeah. So you've got the most pressure in the entire NBA.
Mark Jackson say his stat line looking like concert dates, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose, yeah. That's crazy.
You know what's crazy about
It's the
Harden
most
as
pressure.
well?
It's the most pressure out of everyone because your regular season, what you're known for, has been trash. Your postseason, what you're meant to be known for, really, as an elite athlete, has been average. I mean, very good in terms of numbers, but then you fall off and your team don't win. So now I'm looking at you. I'm like, you've got to win. You've got to fall out because your route kind of says to me that you can make the Eastern Conference Finals as well. Because you won't play the Bucks. I don't think you play the Nets. So yeah.
And also as well, I think even if you put all his past like playoff performances aside, I do think for two reasons is the most precious. Because one of what Abbas said, he left Rockets and he left Nets. Then he goes, so he's clearly trying to put. And unlike I've heard players like Westbrook, CP0, Lame Lillard, you name them, they always talk about how there are bigger things. Like, obviously, they all want to win a championship, but they talk about like this other stuff like they'll be content if their careers end today. James Harden has always said, like in his interviews, like he needs a ring to justify his legacy. Like he wants that respect. So I think there's that pressure on himself. And then for the fact that he then came out to say that I've got nothing left to prove, you can see he's weighing on his shoulders a bit. But like, you're not getting a pass because you left Nets, which would have been a great situation for him if all three of them could stay on the floor, and the way you left Houston as well. So no, there's no excuses. Like there's pressure for him to perform. Like we're all watching.
James Harden, we coming for you. Has anyone seen that old WWF promo where it's the Harlem Heat and he's
I know where you're going with it.
Look at that. James Harden, we coming for you, nigga. Yeah. Well, anyway, Sam, you want to say one quick thing on Harden?
Same thing, but to be honest, I have no expectations for him anyway. I already told you what I think of him, so I wouldn't be surprised if they got knocked out in the first round because it's James Harden. So look, with Embiid, we know what Embiid's about. He wants to get a chip, he wants to get to the finals, but bro, it's finals or bust or Eastern Conference Finals or bust, but I don't see Philly making it there because you got James Harden. Man's probably going to go 4 for 20 or 4 for 30, and yeah, he's just going to tire out. So James Harden, I used to like you, but F you right about now, man.
I'm screaming.
Time's up.
Time's up, bro. All right, what a way to finish our playoff preview. You can follow us at the.zoneldn on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on TikTok as well at the.zoneldn. Yeah, Sam, quickly plug what you need to plug.
Come on. Appreciate the guys. As usual, follow us on Insta, Undiluted Media _ Twitter, Undiluted Media 1, YouTube, Undiluted Media. You know the things. Share, subscribe, like, all of that good stuff, people.
Sweet. Until next time, people.